Today we are at the Doolittle Center at the Nut Tree Airport here in Vacaville, California, to take a look at this fabulous Huey helicopter that's been donated to the center, and we're going to talk to some folks who had a hand in that, as well as some folks who flew this actual aircraft, so stay tuned. We are here at the Jimmy Doolittle Center at the Nut Tree Airport here in Vacaville, and with us is
Jonna Doolittle Hoppus and my father, John Doolittle.
Doolittle. So you are direct descendants of Jimmy Doolittle. This is his son, and you are obviously his granddaughter.
That's true.
So talk about your grandfather and how important the Jimmy Doolittle Center is to preserving our history.
The truth is, the Jimmy Doolittle Center isn't about Jimmy Doolittle. It's about all the people that served this country. And the reason we agreed, my father agreed to use the name, is because it's really about the people, not about Gramps. And we're particularly excited because we're here to help celebrate a new piece of history.
Now, to folks who don't know a lot about the history of Jimmy Doolittle or the United States, I mean, the World War II is the most important, time era in our country's history, wouldn't you say?
I would say it's extremely important, and it's the foundation that we've moved on from. But I also love the fact that we're now beginning to recognize and celebrate Korea and Vietnam and Desert Storm and the desert.
There's no doubt of the importance of all veterans to our country, and that's kind of what this thing is all about, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Absolutely.
Plus, it's neat to come in and see, a B-25 and a P-51 and even the Huey that's behind us. That's pretty exciting.
And what the museum's about to do with it is even more exciting, because we're in the process right now of developing educational programs that are going to reach out into the schools, reach out into the college, and bring kids into this process. Just finished a board meeting, and what we're doing is so exciting. I'm really happy.
Plus, these planes, these aircraft are incredible. They're beautiful. They're fantastic, and you don't understand the scale of them until you're standing right next to one. It's just fantastic.
That's true, and every single one of them has a story. Take the B-25. You can start with the Doolittle Raid, but you can go on to events in the Pacific or events in Europe, and each one has its own particular history. We're here to teach it.
And that's great. And if people want to support the Doolittle Museum, they can come out here. There's a website. There's all kinds of ways to help out, to get to know the museum, to get involved, right?
Absolutely.
And that's part of why we're here, and I encourage everybody to come and check this out. This is such a fantastic facility we have right here in our community. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for sharing with us.
And thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it. And let's go check out the rest of the museum.
Works for me.
Okay, we're here with Brian McInerney, and Brian, you are
the CEO of the Jimmy Doolittle Education Foundation, otherwise known as the Jimmy Doolittle Center.
Excellent, and we're here today because a Huey helicopter has been delivered to the museum and is on display now. So let's talk about the helicopter and why it's significant that we have this piece of equipment here in the center.
It is the iconic symbol of the Vietnam War era, which spanned well over 20 years. Over almost 3 million U.S. veterans served in country in Vietnam. So because of the time frame to where we are now, and it being one of the primary symbols and sounds, you're hard-pressed to not meet someone who has a father, son, daughter, or served, who can tell you a story about it. And we're about education. The best way to educate is with something visual or that you can touch. And then the second best thing is when somebody comes in and gives you the first-hand story. Mm-hmm. We don't try to tell a story. And as you can see today, we're not even really announcing that we have it, or we're not done with it yet. And we must have had 35, 40 Vietnam vets here, so.
Yeah, and that was crazy. You talked to a couple of them, and they were kind of like almost in awe. I mean, it's such it definitely jogged your memory, and anybody who grew up during that era would look at that and know right away what it is and where it's from and how important it was to that effort in those years.
It's absolutely right. And as I was saying earlier, it started as a dust-off, as a medevac, and it did really change how we fought the war and how we basically cut down the number of lost lives. I mean, I mentioned earlier, over 900,000 casualties in the theater were actually lifted and recovered, rescued by this. I mean, without it, the numbers would have been staggering.
Right. Well, they're staggering anyway, but still, imagine without that piece of equipment there, how many more lives would have cost.
Oh, God, yeah, you shudder to think.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there were quite a few vets here from that era. What kind of feedback did you hear from them?
I think same as you. Some in silence, some saying they wanted to come back and share some of what was happening, or they wanted to be part of what we do in and around it. I think they just need a little bit of space with it. Some of them for a while. As you could see, one of our board members, our vice chair, I didn't even know his dad was directly connected to them in Vietnam, and so I think it's a powerful educational tool. It really is.
And that's a big part of what the Doolittle Center is all about, isn't it? It's not just about World War II or the Korean War, or the Vietnam War. It's just a kind of an overall education about the sacrifices that people made for our country and still make today, and the importance of what's in here.
That's absolutely right. These are just pieces of different eras, different stories come from, and to give people not familiar with it, but how far back it went, and when you start reading some of the statistics on like the B-25, how many were made in just a couple of years, and that leads you down the path of, well, how many people fought, what did we do? It's 4 years, and the incredible sacrifice and the incredible sense of community that generation, the greatest generation they call it, had. And they were no different than us. They had a different goal and a combined mission, but some of the character in that, we have STEM programs and we'll be teaching the science, technology, and so we want to bring back some of the humanities into that. There was a difference in what they did with the technology and the innovation and what they did after with it, and who got credit for it or who didn't get credit for it. It was not important. It really was not important. It was for the betterment of the community and the country, and that, as you say, is more what we're educating to, is you can do any of this if you want, but what are you going to do with it? And who are you doing it for? Is it for an individual effort, or is this about a community effort?
Or a world effort?
The world is the community nowadays. Right. It really is.
All right, so I don't want to put you on the spot here, but of all the aircraft that are in here right now, which one's your favorite?
Well, mine is the B-25. Okay. And that's just because it is active aircraft. And you should come on down and get on it, because when the engines on that go off and you just are covered in the smoke and the oil smell, and you get in that thing, the experience of how loud it is and how bare bones it is, and you think of these guys flying the missions with flak, and then it's got the huge number of 50 calibers on it. If you were to light off one of those in that tin can, it gives you a slight sense of that experience, but you feel alive, you feel it. And so I don't know, she's my favorite. And my second favorite being the Gonzalez biplane, because two 15-year-old twins in San Francisco built that thing in their backyard in 1912. So and
then got in and flew it.
And they flew it up here at Travis. They would throw it on a boxcar. It was built in sections, so they could put the sections on a cart from 16th Avenue in San Francisco down to the ferry building, threw it on a train car, jumped off at Travis. They'd fly till they ran out of gas or ran out of water or whatever, and then they would take it back down home. But two 15-year-old kids, we bring a class in and we don't tell them that, but they look at it and say, they had a picture in a magazine. That was it. It was a bike shop, picture in a magazine, and they built it. So what are you building this weekend? Yeah, right. With the technology and what you have at hand, and your smartphone could take you to the moon and back, 100 times.
Right, now they're probably playing video games, but hopefully this will inspire some of them to put down the controllers and maybe take a look at some other things they might be able to do with their free time.
It's true, and to give them credit, they most of the kids catch on pretty fast when they come in here and they can see it and touch it, and they are really curious. And when they can see that they can actually do it, parts of it, it is good to see.
Anything else you'd like to add, Brian?
Well, I of course invite everybody to go to our website, which is doolittlecenter.org, to learn about our larger effort. This is our forward operating base for now. It's just a temporary piece. The main effort is right across the way there for the Jimmy Doolittle Center in partnership with the Solano Community College and hopefully with the city to build a much larger facility center that will be like a new gateway for the county, really, a new economic and social center for the area, and I think a confluence of things aviation, innovation-wise, private companies, public companies, education, everybody kind of being drawn to it, no one central theme, and I think the Nut Tree Airport and Vacaville, when that's complete, is going to be a major national destination for in and around aviation education.
And for now, we have this facility, and people can come see the planes. Tell us about the hours and times and things like that.
That's a good question. So, we are a nonprofit, and we're really bare bones. We just finished acquiring the hangar. We do have to do some safety improvements to it to go to full scale, but we will start being open on Saturdays, probably starting in the next week. So say the middle of April, Saturdays, maybe 10 to 5, I think we're going to try to do. And we have a volunteer corps already established, already trained, so we'll start doing that. And we're going to start working with some of the schools as early as this summer for having them bring some of the classes down.
Excellent. So doolittlecenter.org, check it out. And thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it.
With us right now is an actual pilot of one of these Huey helicopters, served in Vietnam. Tell us your name and when you served.
All right, my name is Kurt Knapp. I flew Hueys in Vietnam, 1967 to 1968.
So right at the height of the Vietnam War, I would guess.
I guess it was, yeah. The Tet Offensive happened at that time, and what a surprise that was, yeah.
So what was it like flying this helicopter? I'm assuming you still fly, or do you?
I'm pretty lucky. They let me fly every once in a while with an outfit in Atlanta, Georgia. But if you're asking what it was like to fly these, it was a whole lot better than the trainers that we started out on. I started out on an H-23, which is a bubble, and then when we got to these Hueys, these were hydraulically assisted, and they had a turbine engine, so they were a whole lot nicer to fly.
So pretty powerful aircraft then.
So, yes, it was.
Certainly for its time.
For its time, right. This was the first turbine aircraft that the Army flew, so it was pretty powerful. We were lucky to get it.
Now, what were the kind of things you would do in this helicopter that you can share with us?
These are a lot of nice things you can do with this helicopter. It's very versatile, and so I got to do a little bit of all of them. I was mostly what we call a CNC, command and control helicopter. So the guy I flew around was a colonel, and he didn't want to get shot down either. And so, we mostly flew over the battlefield, but you could see everything. So observation is one thing you can do. We would haul a lot of troops and supplies in and out. Certainly, we could do medevacs, which I got to do 3 times. You can also make a smoke screen with this thing, and that's a lot of the things that we could do.
Right. Now, when you see movies or TV shows and you see one of these aircraft in those shows, what kind of thoughts do you have in your mind?
I think it's great that they're still flying. I like it when they use the actual sound of this helicopter than making something else up. And so I say, well, okay, great, guys, but you're still in the Army is one of the things that I think about.
Right. And you mentioned the sound, and that was something when we were talking about this event a few days ago. You can't imitate it. It's as distinct as it gets. The sound of that chop, 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 chop.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah. I can imagine being on the ground and the guys hearing that coming. All right, they're gonna get us out. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for being here, and thanks for talking to us, and congratulations on being here, and thank you for your service to our country.
I'm glad that they have restored this thing and brought it in here so other people can see. Yeah, and thank you.
It's fantastic. Right. Thanks again. With us now is
Russ Fisher.
And Russ, you are
the Vice Chair for the Jimmy Doolittle Center.
Vice Chair for the Jimmy Doolittle Center, very important position in terms of the future of the center here at the Nut Tree in Vacaville. And I also understand you fly this B-25 too.
I am one of the B-25 pilots, that's true.
All right, so let's get this out of the way right now. What is it like flying this thing? Because it looks huge. I mean, it's massive, right?
Well, yeah, it's a very powerful machine. It jumps right off the ground, especially in the configuration we have. It's a lot lighter than it was flown in the war, but it's a dream. My answer is it's a dream. I mean, this is just it's a part of living history. It's real. You can walk up to it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and you can see it fly. And for me, that's a dream to be a part of that.
Now, people could ride on this if they wanted to, right?
That's correct. You can do rides. You can contact Jimmy Doolittle Center. We have an email address, which is b25skyrides@gmail.com. I believe that's correct. And you can send us an email. Or you can stop by here at the hangar and set up for a ride in it.
It's just kind of awe-inspiring to stand here and look at this aircraft. It's pretty magnificent, you know.
Yes, yes, it is. It is a piece of history that is. It's just a wonderful thing to have here in this museum.
Okay, but we're here today because of the Huey being brought into the museum. Let's talk about that and how significant this aircraft was during the Vietnam War in that era of our country's history.
Well, there's no greater iconic piece of hardware for the Vietnam War than this aircraft. It was used in a multi-role. You know, it was a gunship. It was an insertion aircraft. It was a rescue helicopter or a rescue aircraft. It was a medevac. You know, it was a transport. It served all facets and really was responsible for the main thing that when people think of this, that was responsible for saving lives. That was its biggest role, was getting people out of harm's way.
Right. And we have one here at the museum now. So let's talk about the museum. The Doolittle Center, we had one of Jimmy Doolittle's descendants. His son was here, his granddaughter. I mean, that's living history. You just can't get anywhere else, can you?
No, and Johnny Doolittle is on our board, and she's been just fantastic. She's brought the support of the family. And given us, you know, the right to use his name and the right to pursue this in his honor, and we want to represent that in everything we do. So, you know, how does Vietnam connect to a World War II person, an individual that's known for his World War II, you know, accolades? And that's because he was a patriot, and this center is about patriotism, and so that's what this unit is for. It's to represent the patriotism and to honor those veterans from the Vietnam War.
Yeah, and it's I think it's great because those guys kind of got a bad rap when they came back, and to finally be able to embrace them and show that, yeah, man, we're proud of your service and thank you for all the sacrifices you made. I mean, we lose 53,000 people during that war, and to just ignore that is not fair.
Yeah, it's absolutely unfair, and I'll tell you, for me, it's personal because my father, who passed away here not too long ago, was a patriot, and he was a Vietnam veteran, and he talked often about his experience over there with me, and he did everything he could to support the veterans after the fact, the Wounded Warrior Funds, anything like this that honored those veterans. He tried to be a part of it. So I'm happy. I hope I'm making him proud by continuing that.
I'm sure you are, and that's a big part of what the Doolittle Center is all about too. You mentioned it yourself. It's not so much about World War II or Jimmy Doolittle specifically, but about just the history of our country and patriotism and all the things that got us where we are today, and allows us to enjoy the freedoms that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And aviation is a huge part of that because it's, you know, it was a fundamental part of pretty much every modern war that we've had, and that's why we're trying to, you know, use this collection to educate those generations that are coming up, and you know, this younger generation, and they just don't have a clue of the sacrifices in these machines. Especially when you look at the B-25 or even this Huey, and look at the differences in the technology between what is flown today and what was flown back then. Right. It's trying to, hopefully you can reach these younger generation, these kids, and let them see for themselves what those differences were and what it really took to manhandle these machines around and make them effective tools of war.
Well, this facility is fantastic. If somebody wants to get involved, wants to participate, how do they do that?
Well, we're starting our volunteer corps. We have a volunteer coordinator. Her name is Tondaleo Murray. Coincidentally enough, her name is actually Tondaleo, the name of the aircraft. Yeah. So, but she's coming online now with us now. She's going to be here on Saturdays, most Saturdays. So I would just encourage people to stop by, talk with us when we're here. You can come by and find out how to get involved, and we'll use anybody. Everybody's got a skill that can help us out.
And if you don't have a skill, financial donations are always welcome too.
Financial donations are not only welcome, but they're needed. That's what, it's what takes to make this kind of thing. We are a nonprofit organization. We give an exorbitant amount of time, our personal time to that, but it does take money to pay for electricity, to have buildings, to put fuel in airplanes. It takes money, and we need that funding.
So we need your help out there, folks. So Russ, thank you for taking a little time out of your day with us, and for all you're doing for the Doolittle Center.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it from the Doolittle Center here at the Nut Tree Airport in Vacaville. If you want to find out more about this fabulous facility we have in our town, visit doolittlecenter.org. Thanks for watching.